Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Wednesday, July 17, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Democrats continue to try to get President Joe Biden to get out of the presidential race. But who is their real target? They want to get Vice President Kamala Harris out of the race. I'm going to explain. Speaking of the Vice President, she was on the campaign trail today in Michigan talking about a variety of issues of reproductive freedom. A national security advisor to former Vice President Mike Pence joined her today in discussing the importance of keeping Trump out of the White House. Talk about getting Biden out of the race. California Congressman Adam Schiff, who is running for the U.S. Senate there, he came out with a statement to the L.A. Times today saying Biden needs to drop out. We'll also be joined by Ohio Representative Joyce Beatty. We'll talk J.D. Vance, as well as all of this talk about changing candidates in midstream. Plus, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott says black male voters are gettable for the Republican Party. You need to wake the hell up. Plus, the Navy has exonerated 256 black sailors unjustly court-martialed in the 1944 World War II Port Chicago blast. Plus, Georgia Appeals Court sets December hearing in Trump's effort to disqualify Fulton County DA Fani Willis. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Vice President Kamala Harris was in Michigan today for a campaign event. She was joined by Olivia Troy, a national security advisor to former Vice President Mike Pence. They spoke in front of a few hundred folks at an aerospace museum outside of Kalamazoo, Michigan. Harris told the crowd that the stakes of this year's presidential election were too great not to rally around the Democratic ticket. She also talked about the importance of gun control laws in light of Saturday's failed assassination attempt against Donald Trump.
Debbie Stabenow, where are you? She's that extraordinary senator of yours.
Gun violence in America is top of mind for so many people right now. And there is no place for political violence or gun violence in our nation. Last year, I was proud to advocate for new laws that were passed here in Michigan. I advocated as a gun owner, a responsible gun owner, including a red flag law, universal background checks, expanding them, and a safe storage law. But we know that we still need additional reasonable gun safety laws at the federal level. How are you and President Biden working to address gun violence in America?
So, Olivia, you've been a great leader on this, and I'm sorry for the personal tragedies that you've experienced. Gun violence in America today is the #1 cause of the death of children in America. Think about that. The #1 cause of the death of children in America is gun violence. Not car accidents, not some form of cancer, gun violence. Today in our country, 1 in 5 Americans has a relative, a family member who was killed by gun violence. And it doesn't have to be this way. And it's a false choice for people to say, well, you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I'm also in favor of the assault weapons ban, of universal background checks, red flag laws, right? And to your point, the leadership here in Michigan has been extraordinary on this. And we need people in Washington, D.C. to watch what you all have done and how you've done it, because you've also pulled together coalitions of people, Democrats and Republicans and independents. That bull doesn't care who you're registered to vote with. Think about this, and then think about it in terms of the trauma. So last fall, I started a college tour. By the way, I love Gen Z. If you have Gen Z in your life, maybe it's complicated for you, but they're really great. They're really great. And among the many things that I would ask, these auditoriums full of these young leaders, I would ask them, raise your hand if at any time between kindergarten and 12th grade you had to endure an active shooter drill. It was bone chilling. Almost every hand went up. Think about that. When I was growing up, I'll speak for some of us here, I think, we had fire drills. But this is a whole other thing. And our young people think there should be in the classroom experiencing the wonders of the world, and some part of their brain is concerned that someone will bust through that classroom door. And think about the trauma that gun violence has exacted not only on our young people who are afraid of what might happen in the context of a mass shooting. Think of the trauma in terms of everyday gun violence that happens in places around our country. That trauma being undiagnosed and untreated. There are so many permeations and ramifications of this gun violence. In fact, we just announced a couple days ago, under the president and our administration, we created 988. In fact, I'd encourage everyone here to know about it and pass it on. And it's basically a crisis line where people who are in crisis, it's not only a talk line, but there are mental health professionals who answer it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anonymously. So people can text or call when they're experiencing crisis to bring it down and also to know where to get help. But these are all the ramifications of this. And the solutions don't really require that much creativity. What they do require is people in the United States Congress to have courage to act and do what we know is the right thing to do, and not cower based on special interests and powerful lobbyists who are encouraging them to do something that actually is contrary to what is the health and well-being of our nation on such a specific issue.
The extremists are not done. For me, and I think Amanda would probably say the same, this isn't the Republican Party that I grew up with. This isn't the party that I supported. I have strong concerns about the things that I'm seeing that Donald Trump has implemented along the way, and I have greater concerns about what's to come.
Yeah.
What do you think is next?
We have 111 days to determine that. Because therein also in the midst of those who are trying to take individual freedoms, including the power to make basic decisions about your own life, we should remember the power of the people to make a decision about who sits in these offices. And that power rests with us, each one of us. And in these moments, we should not become dispirited. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. But you're right. I mean, so the former president, first of all, listen, he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would do exactly what they did. And he's told us over and over again who he is on this subject. And then now, well, you know, there's a bit of a gaslighting going on where, oh, well, no, I just believe it should go to the states. Okay, so first of all, any of the historians here will know what that means when we start pushing states' rights, but let's put that aside. Okay, so you believe it should go to the states. Well, the way I look at it is then let's look at all the, I think it's now 21 or 22 Trump abortion bans in those 21, 22 states, which again, make no exception, some for rape or incest, which have contributed to IVF clinics and care being stifled, which have contributed to women having, awful experiences around miscarriage, which have contributed to people who are doctors and nurses and healthcare providers being afraid they might go to jail for administering care. And, you know, and then recently the former president selected his running mate, the Senator Vance, J.D. Vance. Understand, this is a fellow who in the United States Senate participated in blocking protections for IVF. This is an individual who has said he is for a national and has made every indication that he is for a national abortion ban. And so again, this is where the power is with the people. We have an election coming up. Listen, in contrast to the former president, Joe Biden has been very clear, If there were any attempt at a national abortion ban, he would veto it. And if we have the right people in Congress, people like Debbie Stabenow and others, and they put back in law the protections of Roe v. Wade, our President Joe Biden will sign it into law.
All right, folks, some breaking news. President Joe Biden has tested positive for COVID. He was supposed to speak today at a major, go to my iPad, this is Las Vegas Review-Journal. He was supposed to speak at a conference today there, the Unidos conference. He's supposed to give a luncheon speech. But that, of course, has been canceled. As a result, Unidos US is the largest Latino-centered civil rights organization. Yesterday, he, of course, spoke at the NAACP convention. But again, President Joe Biden tests positive for COVID. I swear the hits just keep on coming. Now, the speech that Vice President Kamala Harris gave was important because she's been out there on the road. But what we've been looking at, though, is all of this attention that is being paid to new polling data. Now, here's what's been going on. You've got various top Democrats who have been saying it's time for Biden to step down. Okay? But I want y'all to notice something. They never say who they want to run. Let me be real clear to everybody who's watching. For the last 3 years, top Democrats have tried to get President Biden to drop VP Harris from the ticket. They literally, some met with Biden, and he told them, hell no. He wasn't going to do it. So, what you need to understand, So this effort to get Biden to drop is not just about Biden. It's also about Harris. Okay, today, Adam Schiff, Congressman from California, came out and said that it's time for Biden to drop out of the race. He, of course, is running for the United States Senate. You now got about 21 Democrat lawmakers who said that polling numbers show if they're not going to do well if Biden is at the top of the ticket. Here are all those particular names. Now, they're all basing this off of the performance in the debate on June 27th. But here's what's interesting. Democrats have spent more time in the last 20 days tearing Biden down than they have Trump. In fact, Republicans have been relatively quiet because the Democrats are doing all of their work. So let's go back to this particular poll that was taken. Go to my iPad. So this was released to Politico today. And so it's from this group called Blue Labs. Now, I want y'all to understand what's going on here. In this particular poll they did, or assessment, you see here where they said they interviewed 15,000 voters across 7 battleground states between July 5th and July 12th. Okay? Says their goal. We're looking for voters whose behaviors change depending on who the Democratic candidate is. Okay? Now, these are their top line findings. Alternative Democratic candidates run ahead of President Biden by an average of 3 points across the battleground states. Nearly every Democrat performs better than the president. But here's the critical line. This includes Vice President Harris, who runs better than the president, but behind the average alternative. Let's go further. So when you look in here, they lay out that an average of almost 3% of Trump voters in a Trump-Biden matchup switch to voting Democrat if there's an alternative candidate leading the ticket. Okay, let's keep going. Young voters, independents, and those who haven't voted since at least 2020 are most likely to increase support for the Democrat with an alternative candidate. So here they go. These are their 4 candidates in alphabetical order. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Governor Wes Moore of Maryland, Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. Now check this out. By nearly 2-to-1 margin, Democratic voters say the party should choose the best nominee no matter who if Biden doesn't run. I need y'all to understand why they're framing it this way. Because they don't want it to be Kamala Harris. Now watch this. Who should delegates nominate if Biden does not run? The best nominee, no matter who. According to Democrats, 56%. 33% say VP Harris. Look at the black number. 43% say best nominee, no matter who. 40% say Kamala Harris. And so then you see independents, youth, sporadic, Rust Belt. Again, I need y'all to understand what's going on here. What you have going on here is an effort by prominent Democrats to freeze out Kamala Harris because they've never wanted Kamala Harris on the ticket. Now, here's what I think is going on. The 2028 battle is happening right now. There are Democrats who want other candidates to run for president. They fear, this is what they fear. They fear Biden winning and then in a year or two resigning and thus handing the presidency to Kamala Harris. If that's the case, she then runs as the incumbent in 2028, freezing out the other candidates. It's going to be hard for the Democratic Party to have candidates run against an incumbent president, the first female president. So these Democratic operatives, they don't want to wait to 2032. They need Kamala Harris out of the way so they can run their folks. Now, you might say, well, I'm not sure. Okay, so answer this. If Biden drops out, the only person who can access the more than $300 million they've raised is Kamala Harris, because the money was given to the Biden-Harris campaign. There are 1,000 staffers on the campaign in 100 field offices around the country. Because of campaign finance laws, you cannot transfer that infrastructure from one campaign to the next. The DNC doesn't control that infrastructure. The campaign does. So, if the Democrats pick anybody but Vice President Kamala Harris, they have to completely build a national campaign from scratch. Fundraising from scratch, infrastructure from scratch. You got to do it on the fly while you're also trying to build the name ID nationally of these other candidates. All of these people, a lot of these Obama people, David Axelrod, John Favreau, Tommy Vietor, I can go on and on and on. I've tagged Julian Castro, former congressman. I've tagged Schiff. I've tagged so many others. Jonathan Alter. All of these people keep talking about, oh, this fresh Democratic face, this fresh young voice. We think anybody could beat Trump. But y'all notice, they never give a name. I'm trying to tell everybody out here what's going on. The play is they need to take Biden out to take Harris out. Oh, and by the way, Vice President Kamala Harris might be from California. Nancy Pelosi does not support Kamala Harris. If you thought Nancy Pelosi shanked Congresswoman Barbara Lee when she ran for the U.S. Senate by backing her boy Schiff, Nancy Pelosi does not support Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. Do not be confused. Let's talk about this with my panel. Joining me today on the show, we have Robert Portillo, host, People, Passion, Politics, News and Talk, 1380 WAOK in Atlanta. Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Election Center out of D.C. A. Scott Bolden, he is, of course, a political contributor. He's also, of course, worked with PACs with the National Bar Association, D.C. Democratic Party, chair, all that good stuff. He's a lawyer in D.C. Rebecca, I've been warning people for months, and it's happening before us. They want to take Biden out to take Harris out.
Roland, I'm thinking about your book, White Fear. One thing that we need to have a kitchen table talk about is that the Democratic Party, Republican Party are tools in which the Black community can use to advance their interests in this country. It does not mean that the Republican Party or the Democratic Party are always or are in the best interests of Black communities in this country. So I just want to say that so we get, as we're framing this conversation, this is absolutely about taking out Kamala Harris. We could go back to the 2020 campaign and we could look at those who did not support Kamala. Many, even among some of my former colleagues, I had conversations, especially with white women who said, oh, there was something about Kamala they just didn't like. And I asked every single one of them, tell me specifically, what is it about Kamala Harris that you do not like? And none of them could identify it to me. And some of those white women no longer talk to me, but that's okay. My point in saying all this and about white fear is that what we're seeing, I think I mentioned this on the show a few weeks ago, there's a difference between winning and power. These people here want power. They don't always care about winning because you don't have to get the W in order to coalesce power. One thing that I will also note for the audience, we know that the 2024 Joe Biden is different than the 2020 Joe Biden. We all know that. However, the 2024 Joe Biden is the same as the 2023 Joe Biden. If any of these people actually were concerned and cared, then they would have talked about this a year ago, last summer, before we even started going into the primary cycle for the Democratic nomination. There are things that could have been done last summer if they were interested at all in preserving Biden's legacy, if they were genuinely and authentically concerned with whether or not he could serve, they would have hashed this out, had this conversation, done all these things a year ago behind closed doors. To see it now and say, oh, well, it's because he had a bad debate. Every single one of those people who are talking publicly, every single one of those elected officials have had very bad debates, very bad public events, because I've seen them, right? So we know it's not about the pretense in which they're telling us that this thing is about, but it's clearly about who's actually going to be running the White House. And we know Joe Biden in the second term. We know that it's going to be Kamala Harris with outsized influence, but we also know, according to the Constitution, if Biden is not able to serve, which a lot of people are trying to say, oh, he's not going to be able to serve in the next 4 years, it will absolutely be Kamala. And finally, I will say, I also remember the summer of 2020, I was a part of a large group of Black women where we told Biden, hey, if your VP better be a Black woman, here is the short list. You need to pick someone from this list. And fortunately, he did. And so Black women are paying attention because we hear what's going on, we see what's going on, and we don't like it.
Different polls have come out today, and I'm going to go over those a little bit later, talking about where Black people are. There's a poll that AP dropped that said 60+% of Democrats, people poll, want Biden to drop out, 65%. But the exact same poll says 57% of people want Donald Trump to drop out. But the Associated Press, Robert, focused on Biden and not Trump. And so then you got these people who are like, oh, look at this. 50% of African Americans say Biden should drop out. But 50% say he should stay in, which is the highest of any group. So the games being played here, Robert, are a trip. And I don't think you can use common sense that if Democrats have attacked Biden's greatest weakness for 20 consecutive days, common sense tells you you're going to see erosion in the polling numbers.
Well, I call this the Hollywood coup because I find it interesting that it's very much a coup being led out of California, New York, Washington, D.C., the major think tanks around the country. But the polling data does in no way, shape, or form back up what the coup makers are pushing out there. There's a poll that came out today that said this is a 2.5-point race nationally, that in the swing states, Biden's up by 1 in Wisconsin, up by 3 in Michigan. He's trailing in Georgia, Arizona, but these are all things within the margin of error. And this is after President Trump survived an assassination attempt in the middle of the Republican National Convention. So Biden very much is in striking distance in all of these polling, and with a strong legislative kick, he can pull himself out of this malaise. So the question is, what the hell is really going on? Because at first we heard from for everybody who's watching, if you're watching on one of the major networks instead of here where you should have been watching, you saw all the people on the panels on MSNBC, on CNN, and all the other channels, they looked down at their phone in unison, and then they all looked up and said, it's time to kill Granddaddy. And at that point in time, they just laid into him in ways that we've never seen people lay into somebody during in a major presidential race. So there's shots being called from an income bracket above the president that think they can tell the president of the United States when it's time to step down and who should be the nominee for office. This is the most anti-democratic thing I think we've seen in American history. This is less democratic than January 6th in many ways. And for those Democrats who are pushing for this, how exactly can you say that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy when you use an undemocratic process to try to force a sitting president out after the primary process, nullifying the 14 million votes that Joe Biden received during the primary season, the 81 million votes they received in the 2020 election? How exactly do you change the 6+ states that have ballot access laws that say that unless Joe Biden is dead, he will be the nominee, or you'll have to call those state legislatures back into office or back into session to change the state laws simply to allow you to put another candidate on the ballot? Besides the logistical points that you made about fundraising $500 million in 4 months, building nationwide name recognition, building an infrastructure and a field team on the fly, essentially, if Joe Biden steps down, is Democrats ceding this election in 2024, retreating to 2028, and hoping they can rebuild the party in 4 years under Trump. I don't think anyone believes that is the best mechanism going forward when we're talking about a 2.5-point race. So then after they said it was about Joe Biden's debate performance, it finally came out a couple of days later. Well, it's really about the poll numbers, and that we, the elites of the party, we, the donor class of the party, we, the insiders of the party, believe that he can't win, and therefore we're going to push him out. When the hell has that ever been the standard for a presidential candidate? That if you're trailing at the convention, the party bigwigs, the people behind the curtain, the smoke-filled rooms get to decide who the nominee is. This is going back to the 1960s. This is going back to the period of time prior to there being binding primaries to select candidates. And I think that the people who support Joe Biden, there's nothing better that he can do than stay in this race and stand strong against the elites. He now gets to be the outsider candidate running against both the Democratic and the Republican establishment and running for the people of this nation. Now, we should watch out, though, because I remember after the Stephanopoulos interview, there was a report that there was a major medical incident on the plane that turned out to be false. And the first thing my wife said was they probably tried to kill him. Earlier today, there was an article that came out that said Biden would only step down if there was a major medical issue. And then later on in the day, we find out that he's been infected with COVID as somebody who's elderly. After the events of the last several weeks in America, there's nothing that we can put past the powers that be. We've never seen an internal coup from a political party where the people trying to bring down the president are quote-unquote insiders, people in the president's inner circle, anonymous West Wing sources, donors, led by George Clooney and Stephen Colbert, etc., trying to overthrow a sitting president. We've never seen a situation where 2 weeks later, the other presidential candidate is nearly shot in the head. So we need to pay attention to the people who are pulling these levers of power and determine who the hell is actually driving this ship and where we position ourselves within the system. This has now gone beyond any season of scandal, House of Cards, or Veep. This is a whole different ballgame that we're at in politics, and we have to be very cognizant of the games being played around us.
Elise, go to my iPad. AP had their story. James Carville tweets, nor is this the good news. There is still time to change direction. The bad news is time is running out. Scott, again, Carville names no one, doesn't name a candidate. What these folks want to do is they want to move Biden aside, go to the convention, and then the party elites work their magic and they want to nominate a new presidential nominee and a new VP nominee, they absolutely want to sideline Vice President Kamala Harris.
Oh, okay, I can agree with your concepts and precepts and the panelists, but here's where your analysis is missing the point, all three of you all. But for Joe Biden looking and sounding old and failing miserably at that debate, but for that, we wouldn't be having this discussion, right? He is old, right? There are concerns about whether he can prosecute the case against Donald Trump. You look at Donald Trump, the reprobate, and you juxtapose that with Biden and his legislative performance and his leadership as president, it shouldn't even be close. But it is close because the reality is he's older, he's aged, he's 81, and it manifests itself differently than, let's say, someone who is older or younger who has aged differently, right? Okay, they want to move Kamala out. There is a way for them to use that $250 million, but they'd have to jump through a lot of hoops with the FEC and others if they were going to do a convention floor fight. Kamala makes all the sense in the world. I don't think that strategy that you say that you laid out, I agree that that's the point and that's their strategy. But here's the deal. Kamala is super popular with young people, black and brown voters, gay voters, anti-abortionists. I mean, she would make all the sense in the world, and it's easy for her to just spend that $250 because those are the coalitions that we're leaking.
Well, wait, Scott. But all of these Democrat elites, they keep saying she's a drag on the ticket. She's not popular. She's horrible. She's been a disaster. No. What I'm saying is that's what they've laid out, and the fact of the matter is that is the narrative that they have established. And I'm telling you, I know from my sources, they literally went to Biden and said to him, he needs to drop her from the ticket. He told them, hell no, I'm not doing it.
Are those Democrats in name only? They must be, because they're drinking the Republican Kool-Aid. I mean, this is a brilliant woman who could prosecute the case against Trump better than Joe Biden could ever at 81. Those coalitions, they come back home to us no matter what. And she has $250 million to bring the heat. And her debate, whether it's J.D. Vance or her debate against Trump, would be magnificent because she's prosecuted lots of different cases. In fact, I think she'd be a better candidate than Biden right now, and it'd be easier to do.
Well, 1 second. Now, here, because I was talking to, and I'm going to bring in Rebecca and Robert as well. I was talking to a couple of pollsters, and this is the concern. And see, this is where folks don't want to truly start just breaking down demos. Mm-hmm. So this is what I got here. 1 second. And I was talking to one last week. So when you look at polling data, Biden leads among white seniors, white women, white college student, and white suburbs. That's about 70% of the electorate. Where have they been lagging? They've been underperforming among black voters, Latino voters, and young voters. So, pollster says he can win. They said that Project 2025 could bring those black voters home. Abortion could bring the young voters home. He says Latino voters are the wild card. But Matt Barreto, who is one of the top Latino analysts, pollsters, they put out, give me 1 second, they put this out 6 days ago. Biden leads Trump, go to my iPad, Biden leads Trump by 17 points among Latinos. Matt says Biden can increase his advantage from plus 17 to plus 30 among Latinos if he hits Trump hard and the contrasts on several different issues that he lays out right here. So, the point here is while all of these other people are going crazy, I saw they were like, oh my God, poll comes out, Trump is leading Biden by 3 in Virginia. They were just going nuts. New poll today drops, shows Biden up 5 to 7 in Virginia. So it's like they're going crazy. And what they keep saying is, well, this percentage of people, they want a new candidate. They wanted a new candidate in a primary in 2020. They eventually chose Biden. They wanted a new candidate in the general in 2020. But when it came down to Biden Trump, they chose Biden. Yeah. So I get the old part. I totally get it. But the problem here is, if you're Democrats and you are hammering your ticket on a big issue, the Republicans could just do this here. Y'all got it. Go right ahead.
Right. But Roland, let me just say real quick before you go to the other panelists is this. And that is this. What's misleading about those polls is how the question is posed. Do you think he should drop out because of his age? 70% say yes. But now if you ask them the same thing, if Biden's on the ticket and he's the nominee and you're going to vote for him, then he's even ahead by 2 points in most polls or behind by 2 points in most polls. So the fact that they think he shouldn't be in the race doesn't really tell you a whole lot, does it?
Dude, that's what I've been saying.
It doesn't tell you anything.
And roll on that same point.
So hold on. So right here. So like here's a tweet right here. There have been 6 polls conducted or partially conducted after the assassination attempt on Trump. 4 of them swing towards Biden. I mean, this man, Robert, has been literally under assault from news media, New York Times, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, columnists, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, everybody. They are critiquing. He kills it at the NAACP, and it's like, oh my God, look at this. He garbled a couple of words. Like, it's as opposed to this was his whole speech he gave. And I'm like, he has withstood the most vicious attack I have ever witnessed on a party's nominee, and he's still in striking distance. What the hell are these people doing?
Look, Roland, beware the Ides of March. The Caesar told us exactly about this. The long knives are out, and these are people who are looking out for their own political future as opposed to the future of the nation. And if they truly believe what they've been telling us, that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, that he's trying to bring about a neo-fascist revolution, that he is going to align America with Viktor Orban, with Lukashenko, with Giorgia Meloni, with the Erdogans of the world, and this far right-wing populist version of what we're seeing in Argentina today, then I think that they should be saying to themselves, well, what does that give us the best chance of winning? Like I said, this is a 2.5 point race. And what people forget is Joe Biden has the power of incumbency, and he needs to wield that thing like the damn Infinity Gauntlet at this point in time. The Supreme Court just said you can do whatever the hell you feel like as president. I'm going to test that to the umpteenth extent. Biden people, come here. Bring the camera on me, Biden people. Look, what you do is Monday morning, Biden has a 10 a.m. press conference. He has an executive order on gun violence, saying that in the wake of what happened to President Trump and the rash of gun violence that's happening nationwide, including school shootings and name off the statistics, I am hereby, by executive order, banning the manufacture of assault weapons in the United States, and then dare Republicans and dare the Supreme Court to overturn that. Tuesday morning, press conference. By the powers vested in me by the United States Constitution in Section 2, I am having an executive order on women's reproductive right. We will walk women into the reproductive health clinic with the National Guard like they did Ruby Bridges if you try to interfere with the exercise of their constitutional rights, and then dare them to take you to court. Wednesday, press conference, 10 a.m., executive order. I'm hereby dealing with the southern border by executive order, and until Congress does something about it, this will be the law of the land. If you want this to continue, then you keep me in office. And you do this every day, and you keep doing it, and you flood the zone like football. If somebody's sitting back in a cover 2 zone, you send slants across the middle until they bring those safeties up, and then you go deep on them. And that's what President Biden has the power to do, to put so many executive orders out there that the Republicans can't afford to fight all of them in court. They can't afford to try to drown him out. And then you change the national conversation to about what you're doing. You build the kinetic energy of re-election, and you end up winning. If you can be at 2.5 points at the lowest level of your campaign, you can win this thing by 5.5 points, given the right policies and given the right strategies. But you're not going to win it in a circular firing squad where you have the people who are closest to you with the long knives out. This is an et tu Brutus moment where you have to figure out who are the people with the long knives, change course, change direction, get in the right room with the right people, and really push forward to victory.
I'm going to go to Rebecca before I go to my next guest. Rebecca, this is very simple. Black people are, I dare say, the smartest voting constituency in America. Black people are pragmatic. They are folk who we didn't love. I mean, as I look at that Ida B. Wells Barnett painting, Ida B. Wells Barnett, her birthday was yesterday, campaigned on behalf of Herbert Hoover, who was the head of the Lily White faction of the Republican Party. They had to make a decision. Do I support this Klan-loving Democrat, or do I support this white racist Republican? Black people have made conscious voting decisions for a very long time. In 2020, black folk were not loving Joe Biden. It was 15 people: Bloomberg, Deval Patrick, Elizabeth Warren, Klobuchar, Sanders, Corey, Kamala had dropped out. It's a bunch of other folks I'm leaving off. And they were like, Joe can beat him. That's what happened. They were not loving Joe. People are not walking around going, oh my God, I just love me some Joe Biden. They're sitting there going, black people are going, his ass evil. Who can beat his evil ass? Okay? Joe can get them old white people. Joe can get them white women. Joe can get them white suburbs. He ain't gonna talk to them white folks in Scranton. You know what? We're gonna go with that old white dude. Am I missing something here, Rebecca?
So I heard Scott earlier say, oh, well, these must be Democrats in name only. No, this is politics. Politics is nasty work. This same thing happened to Bernie Sanders versus Hillary in 2016. Let's not forget. Instead, we're seeing this instead of happening during the nomination process. We're seeing the actual sitting president being stabbed in the back, people attempting to change rules and to block people out, especially when we see Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer today saying, oh, well, we should delay the roll call. Hello, Ohio. We can't not rely on Ohio or the Ohio courts to then rule that it's okay for Democrats to do that. Because remember, August 7th is the deadline in which whoever the nominee is who will be on the ballot in Ohio has to be submitted to Ohio. We can't then expect the state courts there to say, okay, Democrats, if you file a lawsuit saying, hey, give us an extra opportunity to actually fill in that line on the ballot line, that will allow you. Newsflash, that Ohio court, in the makeup of that Ohio court, it's not going to allow for that to happen. They're going to see this as, hey, this is easy work. This is an easy win. We're guaranteeing that Biden is not successful in Ohio. And as an aside, most people don't think Biden's going to win Ohio anyway. However, Democrats shouldn't be making it so easy to lose. Even if they think that Joe Biden is going to be a loser in November, why would you make it this easy? Why would you literally expose your candidate and also expose your entire ballot to this mess? It just doesn't make sense unless this is about power. It's not actually about winning. So I hear you, Scott, when you're saying, well, you don't think that these machinations are really the machinations, or our analysis might be off. This isn't really what these people are thinking. But I need to understand, what is the counter rational argument to explain exactly what they're doing? Because we know this isn't just about a bad debate performance. They took the opportunity of the bad debate performance to say, okay, let's push Biden out. It doesn't matter what Biden did, because we know Biden does a lot of gaffes. He's not a great campaigner. Duh, we've known that since the 80s, right? But we know that he does a relatively good job in governing, whether he's the vice president or the president.
Joining us right now, Ohio Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Congresswoman, always glad to have you here. Congresswoman, listen, my parents have worked political campaigns. They've run phone banks. They put up yard signs. They hung door knockers.
Yeah.
They've been poll workers. I have been in and around politics, passing stuff out on election day, you name it, all that stuff, since I can remember, since I was 6, 7 years old. I have never in my life seen a party viciously attack it's the top of the ticket, an incumbent president with an unbelievable record like what we are witnessing right now by a handful of Democrats in the House, but a bunch of donors and other so-called elite Dems.
Roland, I'm right with you. And like you, most of my life, I've been dealing with politics, whether it was an elected official, whether it was putting yard signs up, being part of the strategy team. And that's why the Congressional Black Caucus, I'm so proud. We have been standing strong, and to quote Jim Clyburn, we're riding with Biden. And you hit the nail on the head. I cannot imagine why we have an internal fight with Democrats. And no one's given any options. They're saying, we don't want to change the rules of the DNC. We want to create our own rules and have a brokered convention, let people submit nominations. When we have a president that has delivered more than any of our past presidents, especially when you talk about healthcare and education and you talk about Black Americans. What happened to us riding the tide with our president who has delivered? Just today, the stock market is up 700 points. When you think about the polling earlier on your show, people were pointing it out that he is on the uptick with this. And you're going to take a 90-minute speech and start unraveling this close to the election and the convention. It does not make sense. And we have to hold our grounds and fight for Joe Biden because he's been fighting for our democracy. And here's the thing, we're misguided because the enemy is Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. I'm from Ohio. J.D. Vance is bad for Ohio, and he is certainly bad for America. And we should not be sidetracked and distracted when we have someone that's going to be a dictator, someone who is saying if he is elected on day one, he's going for retribution and revenge. He has openly said he could stand on Fifth Avenue and kill somebody or shoot someone and nothing could be done. 34 counts he's been indicted on. I mean, come on. I mean, you think of something that's negative, and that's Donald Trump.
So, and again, for the people out there watching and listening, the Congressional Black Caucus has been under intense pressure to break.
Yes.
I've been talking to many CBC members. Donors have been calling y'all.
Yes.
They have been trying to get y'all to break.
Yes.
Other Democrats have been they've been trying to pick off different CBC members because the CBC is the largest caucus, the Democratic side. They know if they are able to put cracks and break the CBC, the doors blow wide open.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But let me just tell you, and you are right. There are people putting proposals out there, floating names of people that maybe we're supposed to be impressed with. But let me just tell you, I've never been more proud of our leadership. Stephen Horsford has been traveling the United States. I've been with him most days. Jim Clyburn, as we all know, spends a lot of time with President Biden. And here's the thing. We have so much at stake, our democracy, our freedoms, and we could also, in our lifetime, Roland, have a Black man, Hakeem Jeffries, to be the Speaker of the House, the third most powerful person in this country. And we are just months away from that.
So I got to ask you, and again, I've been sitting here and watching all these moves, these machinations. And it's real interesting. And I love it how they keep saying, oh, we need a fresh, vibrant, new voice.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, here's the deal. Biden told some of these people he would not drop Kamala.
That's right. That's right.
So he's her greatest cover. She serves at the pleasure of the president. So their deal is, well, damn, we can't take her out. But if we take him out, then we could take her out, and then we can run Gavin or Gretchen or Josh. That's what's going on here. This is all a ploy to take out Kamala Harris. It's not solely about Biden. They want to take both of them out.
Roland, you are so on point as usual. And I said to a group of folks the other day, okay, you want change. They quoted, his 90-minute speech, and we don't think that he'll make it. He can't do it. And I said, but we have an amazing vice president. She has been tried and tested. She ran for president. She has been elected in California, served as a first Black woman. So the pressure has been on her, and she is the vice president. Not one of them said, we don't want Biden because we have Kamala Harris. And let me just tell you from this Black woman, they will not attack my president and jump over Kamala Harris. We will not stand for that because we stand with our vice president. As she has said, she is running with Joe Biden because you're right. They don't want her either.
See, I mean, and I keep telling people, y'all, the coup d'etat is sitting right in front of you.
That's right.
It's sitting right in front of you. And what's amazing to me, and you don't have to say it, I'm going to say it again. Nancy Pelosi is not standing with Kamala Harris. I don't know what Barack Obama doing, but all this other little stuff, and I said it, this is the time that Barack Obama should come out and stand with his vice president and say to the party, enough of this. This is where Obama should be the leader and say, listen, the man has said he's running. I saw an interview. Cory Booker was on CNN. He's like, I trust Joe is going to make the decision. I'm like, he already made it. I mean,
he said,
how many more times did the man can say it?
He said on national TV, he has said to me in person, in the last 30 days, I have been with him. I have traveled with him. I am going to Milwaukee tonight to be there tomorrow to do some counter. And I am telling you, Joe Biden has said, I am running. I am not getting out of this race. And once he said that, stock market went up. His points went up after every speech that he gave after the debate.
It is, I mean, I just sit here and it's like, the man said, I'm running. And he said, unless the Lord tells me, or
if the Lord comes down here and tells me, that's the only thing he would consider. But here's the thing, Roland. None of these folks are saying, here's who we want out loud.
Not one. Not
out
one.
Loud. No plain.
Because they don't want Kamala Harris.
and they don't want to say it. They tried to get to the Congressional Black Caucus. That plan didn't work. Then they tried to use Ohio because we had some drama with getting Joe Biden on Ohio's ballot. So then when we worked that out, because the DNC could have a rules committee, work with the rules so we could do it virtual, then they didn't want that. So, but they don't have a plan. And as I have said to several people, you have to know the rules of engagement. There's not enough time to talk about, we're going to get someone vetted. We're going to train them. We're going to hold meetings and have people interview them. What planet are they on? And then what are they going to run on? When we talk about the economy, so they're going to run on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's record. When we talk about health care and capping insulin for $35, they didn't do that. If they're going to go back and talk about the infrastructure, $1.2 trillion, well, I led that when I was chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Jim Clyburn and Maxine Waters and all of us went to Nancy Pelosi and brokered a deal that the leadership couldn't broker. So what, they're going to run on that? I mean, I am so with you, and I am so pleased that you are speaking truth to power and that people are coming on your show, because we're not afraid. We have too much to lose with Donald Trump. We should not be fighting ourselves and fighting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris when J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, they are the enemy.
Right. I could only imagine if Democrats has spent the last 20 days completely focused on Trump and his lies. Yeah. I could only imagine if they spent their time talking about how nutso J.D. Vance is after he got named on Monday. But no, you got Pelosi making her calls, Schiff talking, Carville, these podcasters, Axelrod, all these people. And history also shows the two times Democrats changed the nominee before the election, they lost.
Exactly.
To me, this ain't that hard.
Okay, so please.
It ain't that hard. Questions for Congresswoman Rebecca, you first.
Thank you, Congresswoman, so much for being here tonight. So my question for you is, what should Black communities do to make sure that their voices are heard in this process? Because even if everybody Black isn't registered Democrat and this isn't their party, that's okay. But this is still about who's going to be on everybody's ballot in November and whether or not there was a true and democratic process. So what is your message for Black communities as we're watching this play out?
Black communities should understand what's at stake. And a lot of people aren't engaged and they don't know the rules of engagement. But what I am saying, trust what we have had. We use that same process that gave us our first Black president. We use that same process that beat Donald Trump and gave us a Black vice president. So first, you must vote. You must use your voice and you must vote. And even if you say you're not into politics and you don't follow all this, think about what you have to lose. If you don't support this ticket, which is a tested ticket, Biden beat him before when people said he wouldn't beat him. He beat an incumbent president. Biden has a track record to run on, and he has done more for Black Americans. So this is our time to stand up. Use your voice. Don't let people convince you that someone is too old and he can't win. He was old when he won before. And Donald Trump is also young, is also old. It's not like he's young. He can't complete a sentence. He doesn't answer questions. So the same barometer that we are judging our president on, if we use that same thing, then Donald Trump should not be the candidate, because we know on Biden's worst day, he's better than the best day that Donald Trump could ever have. So you got to get engaged. You got to help people get energized. Don't be a part of the naysayers just because you're reading a statistic or a fact, or someone said, look how confused he was. He was sick. He admitted that he had not been feeling well. He was tired. I can tell you, you can take someone half his age, and if they are suffering with a cold, if they've just gotten off a flight from Europe, if they've been going day and day, they may slip up on a word or two.
Look, I was in Ethiopia. That smoke got in my system 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago today. Hell, my ass still sick, and I was feeling like crap. ABC is reporting that on Saturday, Senator Chuck Schumer told Biden in a meeting it would be better for the country if he ended his re-election bid. Now, that was July 13th. This is interesting because 4 days earlier, Chuck Schumer said this.
The president, his ability to serve 12 years, that there might be a challenge at the convention, and if there is there the ability to throw out virtual nomination?
As I've said before, I'm with Joe. Yes.
So July 9th, he says, I'm with Joe. 4 days later, says something different. Hey, here's my whole deal. Senator Chuck Schumer, if you told Biden that privately, man up and tell everybody publicly.
Exactly. And that's what I want the American people to do. Follow the folks that speak truth to power. Follow the folks that aren't afraid to say who they're with or who they are against. And I don't care if it is a colleague of mine or not. If you want to say you don't want the president and you don't want the vice president, then let's hear who you have and tell me what they're going to run on.
Robert.
And thank you so much for joining us, Representative. I have this question that Joe Biden, as we saw this weekend in Las Vegas with NAACP, when things get tough, we saw this in 2020 in South Carolina, he runs back to the black community for support, and we are supporting him more than any other group. But what is going to be our demand in exchange for this support? Because when everyone else is gathering around, when the long knives are out, when we beware the eyes of March territory, he tends to lean on our community. Are we going to be asking for an executive order on criminal justice reform that is more extensive than the previous orders? Are we going to be asking for an executive order on voting rights that will really ensure buttress much of the rights that we're having now? How can he pay back the community before the election, not simply saying wait till after I'm reelected?
You just hit the nail on the head. The same thing that we did before, and he kept every promise. Before he was elected, he said that he would put a black woman on the Supreme Court, and he did. He picked a black female, to be his vice president. He put more black people in cabinet positions and other strategic positions than any other president. We went and we asked him to protect our communities, and let's do something with criminal justice. We have the most progressive gun legislation than we've ever had. We talked about protecting our seniors, especially black seniors who we know suffer with diabetes and couldn't afford their insulin. Put a cap on it for $35 and then cap their medical expenses at $2,000, and has created more than 15 million jobs. I'm right here in Ohio. He was ride or die with the late Eddie Bernice Johnson when we needed to get the CHIP Act passed, which created jobs. Right here in Ohio, we received $26 million right here in Ohio. And so I'm just telling you, he has kept his word. And yes, we meet with him, the Congressional Black Caucus. We've outlined a plan. We've worked with the Big Eight, I call it, our civil rights organizations. And we have put all of our issues out there. And I fully trust the Biden-Harris administration that they would follow through as they did before. And we were very victorious.
Scott?
Good evening, Congresswoman. Okay, I agree with you and the panelists about what a great president Biden has been. I write a lot of checks to the DNC and to federal and local DNC officials and to even Biden-Harris. So here's my question. If all of that's true about Joe Biden, I agree that it is, then why is he running behind Donald Trump, who's a convicted felon, been found liable for sexual abuse and for financial fraud? I mean, on paper, it shouldn't even be close. And so I agree the elites are trying to push him out, but for that bad performance and but for him running behind in the polls, Can't ignore that. And you know, in campaigns, all you got to get is one more vote than the next guy. So why is he losing this race less than 4 months out from the election?
Well, I know we've seen what the polls have said, and I know he's been behind and within the margin. And lots of polls. Lots of polls had me down 18 points and said that I would never go to Congress and be there. And those folks that asked that same question and said, why is she behind? Well, when we got closer to the election, obviously the polls were wrong and I prevailed. Joe Biden has been down in the polls before, so has other presidents at this very same time and won. Are we concerned? I don't want to sound naive. Absolutely. But it is more than the polls. If people get out to vote, if people get excited and energized that we also have a Black woman running on that ticket, I believe that he will be successful. I can't address why the polls say that. I can't address every poll. I think we are taking it into consideration. But here's the other thing. We polled some of those same other names to run against Donald Trump, and none of them did as well as Joe Biden. So you may have a good point. He should be higher in the polls because we know what he's running against: a felon, 34 indictments, someone who's not good for America. But he also won before, when polls weren't as far down for our candidate. That speaks to how bad America is right now. And that's another reason we need to be out there voting to protect all of our freedoms and to protect our democracy.
All right.
Would you agree, if I made one more?
Real quick.
You'd agree that Black America and Black voters just aren't excited about Biden-Harris in 2022 or 2024. They're just not. How do you fix that?
Well, I'm not going to say that they're not that excited. Black America's not. The Congressional Black Caucus represents 120 million Americans. And we are excited about having Biden-Harris because you have to look at the alternative. And if we quit saying what we're not and deal with what we're going to get, if we don't get up off of ourselves and get out there and create the synergy and the energy, because this is the ticket we have. And I like your question. Tell me, if not them, who? And all the names we've heard, the polls say that they come out lower than Biden.
All right, you win that one.
I've never, Congresswoman, I have never seen an election won in the middle of July.
There you go. Right. Last words.
I've never seen it. Congresswoman Beatty, we appreciate it. Keep up the fight. Trust me, y'all are catching hell. Semaphore dropped this story saying Jeffrey Katzenberg met privately with Biden in Las Vegas, saying the donors' patience is wearing thin, that they're holding their checks. They may stop giving money to the campaign, to the PACs as well. Well, guess what? The donors may have, the big donors may have money, but each of them only got one vote.
One vote.
That's it. Congresswoman, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. We'll be right back. Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
I still have my NFL contract in my house. I have it in a case. It's 4 of them, for my 4-year contract. I got a $600,000 signing bonus. My base salary for that first year was $150,000. Matter of fact, $150,000. $150,000. That's what I made. $150,000. Now think about it. My signing bonus was a forgivable loan, supposedly. When I got traded to the Colts, they made me pay back my signing bonus to them. I had to give them their $600,000 back.
Wow.
Yeah, I was so pissed. Because, man, I try to be a man of my word. I'm like, you, I'll give you your money back. You know, even though I know I earned that money, I gave them their money back. I gave them their $600,000 back. But yet, I was this malcontent. I was a bad guy. I'm about the money. What about the money? It was about doing right. Because I looked at, because you look at contract. Look at John Edwards. John Edwards was making $1 million, $800,000. I was making $150,000. I mean, I was doing everything. And I'm like, but yet I was, man, I got so many letters, you know, So I just play for free and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you don't forget that kind of stuff.
Right.
That stuff is hurtful.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hey, what's up? It's Sammy Roman.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you're watching. Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, so see, here's what's interesting here, Robert. The donors are trying to be the decision makers. So they're sitting here saying, we're going to hold our checks. Okay, but again, let's say there are 200 major donors. It's 200 votes. What you're about to see is a major clash between the donor class and the base. And last I checked, Robert, I know you need money, but you need votes to actually win.
You know, as I said earlier, I find it interesting that we are seeing the most anti-democratic process play out while they're accusing Donald Trump of being a threat to democracy. These people think that they are better than the rest of us. They think that George Clooney and Winona Judd are those types of people.
Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd, and Bill Maher and these other people are supposed to make the decisions for the black and brown folks that are actually the base of the Democratic Party. The reason we haven't seen a vote on reparations is because these people who make these money decisions think that for some reason that will scare off white Midwestern voters, so they won't allow a vote to come up on it. These people are as much our enemies as the Republicans are our enemies, because at the end of the day, we have a disproportionate number of black elected officials to the amount of legislation that we get for our communities. And that's in part because they prioritize their own issues. They prioritize their pet projects over those of the people who actually put them in power. And I think that they are going to realize this election cycle that system doesn't work. We mentioned earlier the Bloomberg challenge in 2020. This was the same conceptualization of trying to push a candidate in there just on the power of money to try to undermine Joe Biden. These people have never wanted Joe Biden to be the nominee. They've never wanted Joe Biden to be the president. They are just as much against Joe Biden as the MAGA people are against Joe Biden. And right now, the fact that we are having these conversations, we're not talking about all the crazy stuff that went on at the Republican National Convention last night and in this entire week. And this is the problem with this Democratic Civil War. You got Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy almost in a fist fight in front of the CNN cameras. It's not getting any coverage because we have to talk about the Civil War and the circular firing squad around Democrats. You have J.D. Vance being the vice presidential nominee. The amount of crazy quotes that he has on tape about women being basically broodmares for their husbands, bringing back traditional values, shut up, barefoot, kitchen, baby, sandwich. This is the vice presidential nominee that the Republicans have right now, and we could be running 24-hour commercials in swing states just on the crazy stuff that he believes about women. But instead, we are talking about whether or not Donald Trump is too old. And I think all Biden surrogates need to have a standard answer when asked about President Biden and staying in this race. If they say, well, do you think President Biden is too old to be in the race? Donald Trump raped a woman. Do you think that Joe Biden poll numbers will bring down Democrats? Donald Trump raped a woman.
Sustained.
Yeah, do you think that President Biden will be able to get out of this hole? Donald Trump raped a woman.
Sustained.
Where have we come to in American politics where a rapist is somehow getting a pass, but being old is a disqualifying factor? This should be the only thing the Democrats talk about from here on out.
Peter Navarro
left prison to go to the RNC convention, and no one's talking about it.
To be a speaker. He is going from prison to speaking at the Republican National Convention. Wait a minute. They literally had...
Go, Peter.
They literally had... Wait a minute. Let me find it. They literally had this white woman...
The Chrisley's daughter.
Stand her ass up there and talk... If y'all want to see some white privilege, watch this.
All right.
Y'all, if y'all want to see some absolute white ass privilege, watch this.
I'll never forget what the prosecutor said in the most heavily Democrat county in the state before an Obama-appointed judge. He called us the Trumps of the South. Yeah, hey, it's fun. He meant it as an insult, but let me tell you, boy, do I wear it as a badge of honor.
Donald Trump.
I'll never forget.
So, y'all, let me help y'all out. First of all, Fulton County didn't prosecute your cheating ass mama and daddy. The U.S. attorney did. That was the Department of Justice. Y'all, Savannah Chrisley's mama and daddy, Todd and Julie,
grifters.
They were convicted on tax evasion and fraud. They tried to defraud banks of $30 million. Oh, that's what they got Trump on in New York State. So she stands up here like they are political prisoners when your mama and daddy are some damn crooks. So the Republican Party got a crook in Peter Navarro. Their nominee is a damn crook. Hell, Trump, his former campaign manager, is a crook. All these folks were convicted. And speaking, and Robert mentioned this, speaking of crooks, here is Kevin McCarthy on the floor talking to CNN, and that Eddie Munster, underage sex-loving fool Matt Gaetz. Watch this.
One who's not coming back, and then the other part that you have, and the other part you have is one person who raised the issue. He's got an ethics complaint about sleeping with a 17-year-old. So that's the way they would go. So that's the biggest challenge we have.
And in fact, y'all, it got crazier. Here's some other video that was shot of this fool Matt Gaetz.
Speaking. What night are you speaking? Are you speaking tonight? One person Hey, you're not. If you took that stage, you would get booed off of it.
Mr. Madam, how is it to be back?
It's great to be back.
Have you talked with?
I'm sorry. No, go back. Just so y'all know, this is the other crook, Paul Manafort, who was Trump campaign manager, who got convicted of also a criminal activity, but he got a pardon from Trump. The Republican National Convention should be held in a prison yard, Scott.
Yes, I agree. Come one, come all. If you're a convict, come to the Republican Party. If you've abused little boys and little girls, come to the party. Remember the Senate Alabama, the Alabama candidate who was dating a 13-year-old? Trump endorsed him as a nominee. What was that, about 10 years ago? Come one, come all. I mean, you're going to have a parade of them. And what I don't understand is why the Democrats don't just run a commercial of all the convicts from Donald Trump to all of his people. Just keep running it. Just run it day in and day out in the swing states. But they are a party that the people, the power of Trumpism is the people who stupidly or blindly or intentionally support this nonsense and support the lies that they tell. Like the 28 lies that Trump told during the debate. They believe that stuff. They don't care. It just is what it is. So, I bet you They may be deplorables, but they probably are convicts too. They could be, which is why they identify with Donald Trump and all of his craziness. So I don't know. It is what it is. You can run a Brady Bunch intro, all the blocks across the thing, and just run that.
And Roland, just to put a spotlight on it, you have the Crisley's daughter whose parents are convicted of tax evasion and fraud. You have Donald Trump, who owed $500 million for civil fraud, $25 million for the Trump university fraud, $2.5 million for the Trump Foundation fraud. He's been convicted of sexual assault. He's been convicted or civilly liable for sexual assault. He also has $80 million in liability for defamation as a result of that sexual assault he's been convicted of. He's been held by the judge to be civilly culpable for rape. In addition to that, you have Paul Manafort, who was convicted of campaign finance violations as well as lying to the FBI, failing to respond to a subpoena. You have Rudy Giuliani, who owes like $250 million to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss for defamation, who fell down drunk in the middle of the aisle yesterday walking through the RNC convention. This is like Arkham Asylum levels of crazy. And instead of concentrating on that, Joe Biden's old and he's down 2 points, so we got to kill Granddaddy. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It don't make a damn bit of sense. This is a clown show, and they're shooting each other.
Ask and you shall receive.
Well, Roland, something else thank you.
Look at it with his drunk ass. Drunk. He's drunk as shit. In the middle of the day, he's drunk as shit. He can't even get up.
That's not a balance issue. That man is drunk. That is a old school. That's Bourbon Street 2 o'clock in the morning drunk.
Look at that motherfucker. Look at him. Oh, God bless him.
Leave
Rudy alone.
I think what happened, Rebecca, he got a brick dropped on his head because when he got his bankruptcy case dismissed, he got to pay them 2 sisters in Georgia.
Damn right.
But go ahead.
If Democrats weren't so busy stabbing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the back, there's a lot of things that they should be talking and highlighting for the American people. Not just even Rudy Giuliani just falling over invisible blocks, but also like Trump falling asleep. Like if that was Joe Biden anywhere falling asleep the way Trump has been falling asleep during the RNC, then that would be running wall to wall on cable news talking about, there's Sleepy Joe. When we see the very incompetent fool that is Donald Trump. Not only that, but I was watching the RNC. I was paying attention to some of the speakers that they had. And I saw, Roland, you tweeted out that Monday night was DEI night. Well, guess what? Last night was DEI night too. Like, especially seeing the former Democrat, now Republican mayor of Dallas get up and talk. I found that was very interesting. Or even watching Nikki Haley eat crap, like with this eating grin, to eat all that crow and all the words and everything that she said about Donald Trump, like to watch her have to throw herself down on the throne of Donald Trump. Like it was even below kissing the ring, and then even seeing Amber Rose. And what's interesting, as you talked about all the miscreants that was at the RNC, Amber Rose is another example of someone who it appears to be under federal investigation for crypto scams. So once again, like I understand they probably paid her a bag, but she could possibly be facing some heavy civil penalties and/or jail time as well, depending on the outcome of this probe that she's under for security fraud.
But wait, hold on. Rebecca asked, and you shall receive.
Of course, many of the same politicians who now publicly embrace Trump privately dread him. They know what a disaster he's been and will continue to be for our party. They're just too afraid to say it out loud. Well, I'm not afraid to say the hard truths out loud. I feel no need to kiss the ring. I have no fear of Trump's retribution. I'm not looking for anything from him. My own political future is of zero concern.
Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
Kobe's mother and father just
all that ass kissing, all that ass kissing. That was a lot of ass kissing. Hell, he even pissed off Chris Christie.
I'd just say this. We have enormously challenging times in our country right now. And what we need are leaders who have the courage of their convictions. And what we saw in her speech tonight was neither courage nor convictions. It was really tortured ambition. And she was on that stage because she's tortured by her own ambition. She had to go up there if she wants to run again in 2028 in her own mind. And that was more important than her standing up for the things that she represented to the voters in the Republican primaries about Donald Trump being unfit, unhinged, just unqualified to be president of the United States.
Rebecca, go ahead.
And then also seeing Dr. Ben Carson. As someone who grew up in the 80s and 90s, was on the gifted track, one of the things, if you were a Black or brown child in America in the 80s and 90s, you knew about Gifted Hands, AKA Dr. Ben Carson. And then you might have seen the movie where Mos Def played, no, it wasn't Mos Def. I don't think Mos Def played him in the Gifted Hands movie. I can't think who the actor was.
It was Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yes, thank you. And so to see him on the stage last night, I was actually texting a DNC member while I was watching him speak. It was so demoralizing to see where he ended up in life. We had such great hopes for him. This is where he's at now. But it was such a joke in watching these people, these very unserious people being very unserious, and understanding that that is the direction in which this country will go if people aren't paying attention and if people decide that they're going to do Couch 2024. Like, even if you don't like particular people on the other side of the ticket, you still have to examine what type of administration are we going to have? Are we going to have an administration that actually believes in a democracy? Or are we going to have an administration that doesn't believe in democracy? Are we going to have an administration filled with miscreants? Are we going to have an administration that's going to take 100,000 people, 100,000 families out of the Washington, D.C. area and move them away because Donald Trump has this plan for the federal government that's in Project 2025? Are we going to take 50,000 civil servant jobs, which are highly filled by Black people or brown people in this country, and make those into political appointees? Are we going to disband the Department of Education? Are we going to get rid of, like, maybe you all haven't seen yet, but there is a plan to get rid of the NOAA, which means all of a sudden weather reports will no longer be free. And the reason why they want to do that is because they don't want an accurate accounting of climate change that's currently happening. So they don't want a government apparatus that's reporting real and accurate data on what's happening within the climate, right? So it's all sorts of crazy and foolishness. And like, we were angry earlier and then we're laughing now, but people need to sober up and understand how serious November is.
Before I go to Scott, MSNBC put these greatest hits together of lying-ass Nikki Haley. Watch this.
Times change, and so has Trump. He's gotten more unstable and unhinged.
If you mock the service of a combat veteran, you don't deserve a driver's license, let alone being president of the United States.
He was thin-skinned and easily distracted.
It's not normal to spend $50 million in campaign contributions on personal court cases. It's not normal to threaten people who back your opponent.
Donald Trump is turning the Republican Party into his own playpen, where it's all about him. He's not qualified to be the president of the United States.
Scott, go right ahead.
You know, Roland, maybe if you allow me, I got a question for you in the panel. What is it about Cruz and Rubio and Nikki Haley and the long line of Republican officials who have been publicly, personally humiliated by Donald Trump? He said awful things about them and their families, lied on them, and yet they come to the table and genuflect to in front of him, beneath him, pledge loyalty to him. They've said awful things about him when they were telling the truth, Lindsey Graham, and yet they all just kind of fall in line with rooted at the bottom of all of just blind ambition. I don't know how you come back from the public humiliation by Donald Trump and then crave and desire, because he's the president, the former president, to kind of be in the flock, if you will.
It's easy.
It's subject to something else.
Scott.
American politics.
Scott, it's real easy. And in September, will be the 3rd anniversary of when I was on ABC, and I said this.
And I appreciate the speech, Governor, but the reality is this. You have to admit, Sarah, you have to admit the role that you played in putting the person in leadership who is driving conspiracy theories. It's one thing to condemn them after the fact, but you have to own up to the role that you played in putting the person in power. The time
we both ran campaigns against
No. Let me finish.
First off, I don't have to admit, First off, I don't have to admit anything to you.
Can I finish?
First off, I don't have to admit to you. And second, I ran against Donald Trump in 2016.
You also coached him for the debate, sir.
You ran against, here's the deal, you ran against him. But when a person has principles, morals, and values, they do not support them even if you lose. And what they say is, I choose patriotism and the country over party and power. And the problem was too many Republicans chose power in riding with Donald Trump as opposed to patriotism and America.
I'll sleep fine.
That is it.
Yeah.
It's power.
It's
power.
Well, Roland.
Hold on. Scott,
couldn't answer those questions.
Scott, finish your point.
No, it was a question because it's embarrassing and humiliating. It doesn't make any sense. It's one thing to lose to somebody, but when they publicly embarrass you and your family, they talk about your father and your wife and name your names, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, call her a bird brain, all these really personal attacks. We would call them in the black community playing a dozen, but in front of millions of people, and yet they just sit down, genuflect, and come into the fold of the oppressor, if you will. So you're right. One thing we haven't talked about, Roland, is the changing of the guard in the Republican Party. This is not Reagan's Republican Party anymore. It's so far from it. The choice of J.D. Vance says that they really are trying to transition from being the wealthy and powerful to isolationists. They open perhaps the union. I mean, they had union leaders speaking at their convention. We're watching the transition of this party to something, but I don't know what that is. It can be Trumpism, but what happens when Trump is gone? What happens to Trumpism when Trump is no longer there?
Because
whether he loses
because here's the deal. What they've done, and Robert, I'm going to go to you. What they've clearly done, Vance is going to carry the Trump ball. Mm-hmm. The reality is this party sucks up to Putin. This party sucks up to China. This party,
Ukraine.
This party, what they've done, this party is sucking up all these Silicon billionaires who are now backing them. It's all bullshit about the working class and the common man. No, the billionaires. There's a reason. If Elon Musk lied, I'm not endorsing, I'm not giving it any campaign. Now he's going to give $45 million a month. That's why I'm with Robert Reich. The hell with these billionaires, tax their asses. If you can give $45 million and $100 million to a PAC for a campaign, guess what? Your punk ass can pay more. Robert?
Well, just to your point, a couple of things. One, it's interesting to me that Nikki Haley went from "I will not kiss the ring" to "Hakcha." in about 6 months. It really wasn't that long. She shined that thing on up and just say you can do what you want. I think that it's very important for us to understand that we're dealing with people with no morals, no values, no convictions. No morals, no values, no convictions. Now, what do I mean when I say that? The Republican Party has been a right-to-life party for the past 50 years. They have stood in front of abortion clinics and yelled at little girls while they sought medical care. They have pushed laws to take away women's reproductive freedoms and state after state for decades. Donald Trump came in this year and said, we're pro-choice. And they were just fine with it. And that was it. There's no conversation. There was no fight. There was no circular firing squad. There was no Donald Trump to step down. It was just done. It was over. The Republican Party has been literally stoning gay people for the past 50 years. Donald Trump took the marriage between a man and a woman out of the Republican platform this year for the first time since the Reagan administration, and no one cared at all. The Christian Conservatives, the party of Jerry Falwell, Pat Roberts, Christian Cathedral, Moral Majority, that party had an OnlyFans model giving a primetime address. And they're being supported by Sexy Red, Waka Flocka Flame, Whoa Vicky, Lil Pump, Lil J on the Track, Uzi Vert, Kodak Black. Kodak Black has a song, and he's a Haitian brother, and we're going to have to get him back into the camp or something, but he has a song saying, I don't need no black chick, I'm black already. And that is a Trump supporter. And we're acting as if this is just a normal state of politics. And the reason that these Republicans will sell out every moral and value and thing they've said they believed in is very simple. Where's Corker at? Where's Ben Sass at? Where's Jeff Flake? Where's Liz Cheney? Where's Adam Kinzinger?
Gone.
Where's Chris Christie? Everyone who's ever stood up to Donald Trump is gone, not just from their seat, from American life, from politics in general. Somebody had to take a job as a president of a university after Trump got rid of them. Trump don't just talk about you. He destroys your character and destroys your ability to make money going forward. And because of that, you have Mike Johnson, who before he became speaker had an accountability buddy with his son to make sure that they don't watch porn with each other because they're that strong of Christian conservatives, to standing outside the courtroom at Donald Trump's porn star affair trial dressed in a Trump costume. The Donald Trump has such control because these people understand that they do not have the ability to step out from under the king, and that is a power Joe Biden doesn't have with the Democratic Party. These people think they can win without Biden. The Republicans know they have no chance to exist without Trump. Therefore, what Trump says goes, and this is why we're seeing a Republican Party that is talking about pro-union, a bunch of black folks running all around. The vice president has an Indian wife and a son named Vivek. They got porn stars speaking at the rallies. They got rappers, all this stuff, because Donald Trump is taking this party, and instead of becoming more Christian and more conservative to meet the party, he has molded the party into his image, and he's done it in record time.
This is This right here is Nikki Haley and all of these Ted Cruz. This is all of them right here at the convention.
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk too and spit on that thing. You get me? I love you, Pookie, forever.
That's them. They will kiss that ass. They will kiss that ass more than Eric Trump and Donald Jr.
And Roland,
go ahead.
And Roland, Democrats took this time to commence a civil war. It doesn't make a lick of sense. Because bottom line, I remember when Democrats were saying that, Citizens United was decided wrong. I remember when Democrats were backing Russ Feingold when he was trying to do campaign finance reform. I remember when Democrats say, hey, let's take money out of politics. And now they can't hop fast enough to Silicon Valley to get their own money, to get their own bags. And just like what we talked about earlier is that the Democratic Party is moving away from its base. Its base is black. Its base is brown sometimes, but its base is most definitely black. And so the reason why I was referencing your book earlier about white fear is we have to understand how the political apparatuses in this country is also supporting white supremacy in this country, regardless if it's Democrat or if it's Republican. And right now we're seeing how it's playing out and how the changing of America is playing out even within the Democratic Party. So welcome to the Civil War.
So let me say this here. Let me say this here to the Democratic donors. Let me say this to the Democrats in the House, in the Senate, who want this smoke.
Mm-hmm.
I just want y'all to know. I just want all y'all to know. All y'all Democrats, y'all think y'all want this smoke. I don't think you do. Because I'm going to tell y'all right now, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be Montgomery Brawl 2.0. And I'm telling you right now, y'all don't want this smoke. Y'all don't want it. Now, y'all can sit here and play this game. And I'm telling y'all, y'all heard me say it earlier to Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. They are exerting maximum pressure on the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus. They are, go back to my iPad. This right here is the CBC against the Democratic Party. Y'all, this ain't hyperbole. The donors are about to start telling the CBC, we're gonna pull your money. And I'm telling you, Scott, Rebecca, Robert, I don't think these donors are prepared for, and I don't think these Democrat elites are prepared for the backlash from the base that they are about to get. If they think that they are going to screw over Biden and jump over Harris, and people are gonna go, oh, okay, we good, we really want to take out Trump. They got another thing coming. And I'm warning them. That Biden coalition of those white voters, we showed the Black PAC poll how his black numbers are increasingly going up. We showed what Matt Barretto said, Latino numbers. They think, oh, everybody gonna fall in line. Robert, they have no damn clue.
Look, Roland, I bought a URL this weekend, and I'm going to start putting a site on it. It is Biden or bust 2024, because I think there's a lot of voters that need to be reinforced with this idea that it is Biden or bust, that black folks are not going to turn out. If you get rid of Joe Biden in an anti-democratic process, then hop over Kamala Harris in an anti-democratic process, and then replace a black woman named Kamala with Gavin and Gretchen, the black women are going to burn this thing to the ground. I just want that to be known and understood. For those of you who are not married to a black woman, there's nothing more angry and more spiteful than a black woman scorned. And scorning the strongest and most high-profile black woman in the country will have hellacious repercussions for the Democratic Party going forward decades. I remind them that 68, you forced LBJ out of the race. This leads to Nixon winning. Because of that, from 1968 till 1992, the Democrats won a grand total of one election, Jimmy Carter in 76. You are basically ceding the next 30 to 40 years of American political life to Republicans with the trauma you will do to this party if you force the top of the ticket out. And as you said, there's no one else with the name recognition. There's no one else with the fundraising base. There's no one else with the coalition building. The reason Joe Biden got into this race in 2020 was that none of the 20 people running at the time had the juice to beat Trump. And that was when they had the opportunity to nominate those younger, fresh faces, Castro, Cory Booker, Pete Buttigieg was a kid at the time. You could have put any of those people as a nominee. None of them had the juice to beat Biden then. They don't have the juice to beat Biden now. And this concept that the billionaire donors will go behind a curtain and come back out with a new candidate that they're going to force upon all of us and then have the opportunity to win, you're talking about doing the type of irrevocable damage to the Democratic Party that cannot be repaired. Look at the Tory party in Great Britain right now. They abuse their base rise to the point that they not only did not win the last election, they did not come in second in the last election. They were third, nearly in fourth with Reform UK. If you look at the models you see across the globe, if you look at the models, if you go after your own, you destroy your own party.
That may be true, but let me tell you how the elites think. Not that I'm an elitist, but let me tell you how the elites think. that if you stick with Biden...
Hold on, Scott, really?
Yes, what?
Now you know your ass.
I'm trying to explain to y'all how
Scott, you know damn well your ass. Scott, you know when you know when the invites go out to the Democratic elites, 3 of us ain't on the mailing list.
Well, that's what I'm going to tell you how elites think, okay? I'm not, but
Please
I've been around.
Tell us how
How's
you
that?
think.
Allow me to speak on behalf of money.
Okay, this is how money think. Money says, we're going to destroy the party anyway with Biden and Harris. He's losing in the polls against a convicted felon. If we leapfrog that black woman and if we move Biden and Harris out, what are black people going to do? They're going to be upset with us for a while. They're not going to go vote for Trump. Eventually, they're going to fall in line, whoever's at the head of the ticket. And now we got to go make this decision that we made right. Black people have put up with our abuse for 50 years or more. They'll put up with a little bit more. They'll get over it because they want a Democratic president in the White House because they can't afford for Trump. And we'll urge them to go to the polls no matter how unhappy they are because Trump is worse than anything else, despite what we did to Biden-Harris, right? And we're going to put money behind it, and you're going to grin, you're going to take it, and we're going to take your asses to the polls, and you're going to vote Democratic because that's the only choice you have in America. Now what?
And Scott, let me answer that.
What's your counter to that with no emotion, or we're going to burn it down, or black women are going to protest? Oh, we can deal with that. We got money. We can deal with that.
Scott, let me answer that.
I'm listening. Come on.
I'm going to answer that as a woman, a black woman from my ethnic.
Come on.
When you say what's the worst that can happen, we lived through worse and we survived. We're still here. So
here we go.
If you're telling us we only have a Biden era, hold on, money. I let you talk, money. I let you talk.
Let me tell you about you black people. The problem with you black people is this.
Look, here's the bottom line. Black people always have a choice. We could stay home. We could be black, live and die, right? We don't owe anyone our vote. We could do whatever we want with our vote. Yes, our ancestors, they died, they bled, they stand in line. And guess what? We could still do whatever the F we want to do with our vote.
You ain't got nobody to vote for but the Democratic ticket. You going to vote for Trump? If not, then what are you arguing about? You gonna vote for Trump? If not, we can do whatever we want to do because we got the money and we're gonna push him out and you ain't got no choice but to take it, Black America. Take it like you always do.
Now, Scott, I'm resisting. Now, Scott, I understand you're playing a character. I almost sold you the pull-up, but I understand that you're playing a character.
Come on. Tell me who you gonna vote for.
But here's the thing.
You ain't got nobody else to vote for. Black America?
But Black America doesn't have to vote. Black America doesn't have to vote for the top of the ticket.
That's a vote for
Black
Trump.
America, Black America, but guess what? We could live through Trump. We could survive Trump. We could survive Project 2025, quite frankly, because we survived.
What you about then?
Do we want to? No.
Who's playing music?
Did you not hear the OJs, Scott? Don't let money change you. Don't let money change you.
Of course, I'm role playing, but I'll be honest with you. That's the reality that black people face. No matter how much you argue and talk black on this show and do all the things you do around the country, in the end, black people really ain't got no choice because they don't have their own political party. What you gonna do, Roland? You're gonna yell and scream a little bit. You're gonna protest a little bit, Roland, and you're gonna vote for that Democratic ticket, whoever's on top. Aren't you, Roland? Of course you are.
No, because let me remind Scott.
I need my phone.
No. Let me remind Scott of something. He only won Georgia by about 10, 12,000 votes.
A loss for Biden.
I'm telling you, the donors do not want to be at war with the base because the base got more votes than the donors do. This is I never forget in 2008 when LGBT folks in the party were pissed off that Donnie McClurkin and Mary and others were on the campaign trail. And they get them off. Kirby John Caldwell, when he was, they were like, get him off. And Obama had to call a meeting. And Obama had to say, now listen, there are going to be people at the table who you don't agree with. And I remember I was after we did CNN one night, we were at a restaurant and it was Hillary Rosen, she's lesbian, and Anderson Cooper, he's gay. And we were at the table and they were talking about, all this. And I said, Hillary, votes trump money. I said, and he can't win without black votes. And she went, yeah, you got a point there. So the donor class needs to be real careful here because they don't understand. They don't understand what they're about to unleash. Now, people can say, they set the primary up for Biden. 14 million people voted for Biden. That's a lot more than those donors. So I'm telling you, donors, y'all can play games if you want to. But if y'all think y'all gonna take, Scott, I'm telling you.
You're proving my point.
If the donors think,
we lose.
No, but that
black people ain't got no choice.
Scott, you keep saying black people. When I say the base, I ain't talking just about black people. And what
I'm talking about the base, the whole base.
And I'm telling you, I'm warning them. I'm warning these donors. If y'all, I got this. If y'all think you're gonna take out Biden and Harris, y'all are asking for hashtag Team Whip That Ass to show up.
and Roland, just real quick.
30 seconds. Go.
Roland, just on that point, remember, I remind people, I'm a pro-gun, pro-life Southern Baptist. I ain't but that close to being a Republican at the end of the day. So if there's a lot of voters like me out there, well, you're lucky I'm even voting for y'all in the first place. It's just because the Republicans are racist for the most part. But, they had Negro Night on night one of the convention. What's his name? The guy from Michigan said, if you don't vote for Trump, you ain't black. I see rappers and I see porn stars and all kinds of stuff. They got a party going on over there. So, there's a lot of voters out there. They ain't holding on but that much to being Democrats in the first place. So to Scott's point about what they're going to do,
any Republican party with black people is called Rhythmless Nation. I'm done.
Integrated
Scott. Robert. Here's what I know. When the convention is over, the Republican convention, you can go to bed early because it ain't nothing black to go to. Robert, Rebecca, Scott, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, I'm going to see y'all tomorrow from Atlanta, where we're going to be there, of course, broadcasting there from IBEW Hall with the workers there. So we're looking forward to that. And so I'll see you guys in Atlanta tomorrow. Don't forget, support us in what we do. Join the Bring the Funk fan club. So your check and money order, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Holla! Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punch
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?